This is Silly Sausage, a very flowy jump trail at my backyard bike park. We've started going around the drop at the beginning though because it doesn't really connect to the trail. A set of 3 jumps immediately follows. While the first one is fairly small, the next 2 get progressively bigger. I'm loving the way these jumps connect to each other, but this drop needs to be changed. I'll teach you the process so you can build your own drop, as well as give you personal tips that make the build a lot easier. To start, we have to take out this first lip though, because that's where the drop will be going. Most of this dirt can be moved to the landing to make it wider, and the rest will be used for filling the posts in later on. With this landing widened and perfected, I'll give you a materials overview for the drop build. So first we're going to need to go over the materials that are necessary to build your drop. Starting off with the posts, these are the only thing that we didn't buy from the lumber yard. We got these from the forest that we're building in. They're cedar, they're going to be naturally rot resistant, and they're pretty thick, so they're not going to break. One rule that I like to follow if you're buying wood from the store or you're getting it here is if your hand covers it, or if it's more than 4 inches in diameter, it's good. A 4x4 is pretty much the minimum you can have for a post. Anything less might snap, and you don't want to take that risk. Next up is screws and lag bolts. Lag bolts aren't necessary, but they're a bigger version of a screw if you think about it. They're going to be very helpful for making your drop extra solid, and it's going to be really hard to break. Screws are enough, you're going to just have to put a lot of them, and make sure you have construction screws instead of general purpose screws. That's going to go a long way for your drop. Next up is the deck planks. These are 1x6s. We've cut ours to be 3 feet wide because that's how wide we want our drop to be. You can really use anything for decking. 2x6s work, 2x4s work. Just make sure you have enough braces where it's not going to bend. I'll talk more about that later. Next is 2x6s, and this is going to be used for framing until you put your deck planks on. Now these are also from the 70% off pile at Home Depot. They're super cheap, but they're awesome quality. Just pick out really good ones, and that's going to go a long way in saving money for your drop. These ones are 8 feet long, and they're very stable. Some of them have bends or minor issues that aren't going to come into play later, but these are a good choice. You can also use 2x8s if you really want some strength. And the final thing you need are stakes, which are going to secure your drop and make the bottom so it doesn't move. These can be 1x1s, 2x4s, really anything that's not too big can be a stake, and you're going to screw it in and hammer it into the ground so that it keeps the bottom of that feature solid. Those are all the materials, and now we can get to constructing our drop, and I'll teach you how to do it on the way. I find it more helpful to build the landings first because it can give you a better speed judgment. For this one though, we already have a landing, so we don't need to worry about this. The first step in the actual drop is to dig in the post holes. For me, this is by far the hardest part because I'm in a forest where roots come into play. For people that are digging in a field, this might be one of the easier parts. When measuring where you're going to dig in your posts, I find it helpful to plant 2 shovels in the ground and use one of your deck planks to measure across. If you have this distance between your 2 holes, it's a pretty good spot to be digging. I've chosen to use dirt over concrete mix to secure the posts in, and that will protect the forest that we're building in. This does mean that our holes need to be pretty much as deep as possible for maximum stability, but if you're using concrete mix, you can get by without a deep hole. To secure these 4 beautiful cedar logs in place, I'm mining some of the heavy white clay just from up the hill. As the dirt you use gets more dense, so will the stability of the drop you're building. When pouring the dirt in your holes, it's important to pack it every few inches. If you pile all the dirt and then wait till the end to pack it, it's not going to be nearly as stable as if you go layer by layer. In this case, the slope is fairly flat, meaning we need 4 posts, 2 for the uphill section and 2 for the flat section. If you're building in steeper terrain, only 2 posts will do the job if you connect the drop to the ground. It's finally time for the juicy part once all 4 posts are in, secured, and cut level. Building the frame can be somewhat difficult if you don't have much woodworking experience, so I'll try to explain this process as best as possible. To start, I'm taking the 2x6s and creating the basic outer frame. By attaching 2 on each side for both the uphill and flat sections, the frame is starting to take shape. Once the 4 boards are on, you can put your braces in between. For us, we're going to use 2 because we have 2 sections of the drop, one on the end and one in the middle. These will provide you with a mounting point for your middle brace, and it's going to make your drop a lot more stable as well. You'll have to do a lot of precise cutting to make sure they fit evenly, as it's very rare you can get it right on the first try. Once your frame looks similar to what we have here, you can start digging away at your bottom 2 beams. To get them level, there's a lot of fine tuning required, but this will make your drop feel better when you're riding it. I'm gonna whack the stakes in for the lower 2 boards so it can be nice and stable. You can really use anything to do this, so I'm using this dirt tamper. During the process, make sure your beams stay consistently level the whole time. You can place a board on the drop and eyeball the height too. From here on, the process is remarkably simple. We have to attach 1 more board in the middle of each section to ensure the planks don't bend. This means cutting the boards to exact size again, as well as securing 1 more stake at the bottom. You can mark where you need to cut with a screw, as I'm doing in this clip. Those smaller braces that I was talking about earlier play a huge role here. It's where your stringers are going to mount to. The lower board on the middle section though will need to be cut at a certain angle so it can rest smoothly. After triple checking that every single beam and stake is perfectly level, we can secure it with lag bolts to make sure everything is extra strong. With all of our deck planks cut, we could finally put them on and then ride this sick drop. The best way to do this is to evenly space the planks using an upright board and put one screw into the vertical side of each beam. Now the drop is done, so let's quickly recap the process. First, we dug in 4 post holes to serve as stability and mounting points for the drop. Then we assembled the frame with 6 boards lengthwise and 2 across. After using lag bolts wherever possible, we could put planks on, and that brings me right up to now, where we can finally ride this drop. You had that. I really just can't get enough of how awesome this feeling is of building a feature and riding it and it working flawlessly. It's just amazing. That's going to conclude this week's video of how to build a drop. If you have any additional questions, leave those in the comment section and I'll happily respond to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.